Hi there. In this video, we will start a new topic, and I hope that you don't get bored from jumping from one topic to another. But just to give you a quick recap for what we covered so far, that we went through the forensic investigation process. And we said usually we go for looking at the red flags, collecting evidence, running different interviews and interrogation, trying to see who would be the suspect. And then we talked about all the different types of fraud that could happen in real world or in cyberspace. And in the last chapter, I talked about the ethical dilemma that the forensic accountant might face, especially when it comes to different avenues he might need to take, and he doesn't know which one is the best. So we say we use different approaches. The first one, we call it utilitarian. The second one, generalizing. And the third one, the imperative, using the law. And if you remember, we say using the law is the least amount of importance, because ethical standards are taking a higher level than the law. And then we said, like in the organization, everybody should be responsible for the anti-fraud policy, starting from the board, going down to the management, going down to the employees, the accountant, the HR, and finally comes the external auditor to do his job for the fraud investigation. And maybe he might need an expert, and he might need to get some help. And in this regard, I say there are different organizations that can help the forensic accountant or the fraud examiner or the auditor to get an advice. One of them is the Association of Certified Public Accountants. The second one is the AICPA. The third one is PCAOB. And the last one is the National Association for Certified Valuation Analysts. And we will talk about those organizations in this video as well. But just to tell you that the forensic accountant is not left at his own experience to do the homework. There are different kinds of support that he might achieve. And with this in mind, let us go to the presentation here. Because in this chapter, we will discuss the support that the forensic accountant might take from different organizations and the kind of services that the forensic accountant or the auditor might provide to his clients, like consulting, litigation support, expert witness, calculating the damage. And this is what we will discuss it in details in this presentation, the valuation and other engagement. So this chapter is giving you an overview of all the kind of services the forensic accountant can provide to his clients. As I said, there are different organizations. They support the forensic accountant or the auditor or the fraud examiner, and one of them is the AICPA. They have one certification called Certified Forensic Financial. I already took this certification back in 2013, and you can apply for this exam and this certification if you are a CPA and you have 5 years of experience after the CPA exam and license, because this is one of the key requirements for this certification CFF. The CFF, it has different sections. One of them talks about litigation. The other one, practice aid, special report, and other publications. The second organization, which also they provide a certification, is the Association of Certified Fraud Examiner. I took the exam back in 2011. And it's a very good exam because it gives you, like, as it says here in the slide, like an encyclopedia. And now they have it in digital format. But this encyclopedia has 4 big sections, one about financial transactions, then about the laws, the investigation process, and then the procedures for fraud prevention and deterrence. And they have, like a regular magazine, the issue called Fraud Magazine. Honestly, I encourage you, if you are thinking seriously to become certified, the CFE exam is very good. It's multiple choice. and it gives you a good background of all the different aspects, standards, rules that you might need to know in fraud examination. The third one is the National Association of Certified Valuators and Analysts, and they have also a certification called Certified Valuation Analyst, and they have a regular magazine called the Value Examiner. Those also, they have different standard and guidance for the fraud exam. Now we need to look at the issues that the auditor or the fraud examiner might think about when he provides the services to the client. And in this presentation, I will talk mainly about the auditor, because the auditor has more access and more knowledge about the financial data. And because of his access and his examination to the internal control system, he would be in a better position to provide services to his clients. So the auditor or the CPA first has to consider the implications. Then he needs to have like some skills, like become certified to get good experience and training in the area of fraud examination. And if the auditor is qualified and competent to take an engagement, he has to draft an engagement letter. The engagement letter here identifies all the responsibilities of the auditor, all the responsibilities of the clients, and then maybe some terms about the payment, the scope of the work, the outcome. However, the auditor cannot give to his client anything related to the opinion about the guilt or the innocence, because the auditor himself doesn't know if this person is suspect or not, but he will work towards data collection and analysis. What are the kind of services he can provide? Number one, the auditor can assess the risk and any illegal act that has happened, then evaluate the adequacy of internal control. And as I mentioned in the previous presentation, that in public accounting, or let me say the public companies, they issue the financial statements, and the auditor comes at the end of the year to express his opinion on the financial statements. But also they are mandated by the SEC, which is Security and Exchange Commission, to make internal control system over the financial reporting. And this rule came back in 2002 by the issuance of Sarbanes-Oxley Act based on the collapse of Enron. And since that time, all the public companies who are listed in the stock exchange, they have to make internal control system. The auditor comes at the end of the year also to express an opinion over this internal control system. And then the auditor will run tests of control over the transactions or substantive testing. And then he can also design or implement the policies and the procedures regarding the internal control, make some proactive investigation in case there is no fraud. So the auditor can run different tests to see if there is any accounting anomalies or numbers or operational anomalies where we can see there are some red flags either in the financial statements or the operation that might indicate about the fraud existence, or it might not. So he has to make proactive audit, then prepare the code of ethics and the code of conduct, and this is also another issue he can do it, and he can check if the employees are insured. In case those employees, they committed any fraud, the insurance company will compensate the client for any damage that happened. And this is what we mean by bonding. Bonding, we make insurance policy on different employees so that if they commit any fraud, the company will get compensated from the insurance company. And then develop corporate compliance program. The AICPA, they issue different interpretations and rules regarding this one. For example, the public domain review and background investigation, interviews of knowledgeable person, confidential source of information and evidence, laboratory analysis of physical and electronic evidence. All these are different interpretation, if you could say, or practice aid that the auditor can read to get some kind of experience and knowledge on how to run these kind of things, whether collecting evidence, making interviews, keeping the information secure, undercover operation, analysis of financial transactions. So the 7 points you see here on this slide are issued by the AICPA to give knowledge to the auditor about different issues that might come out during his engagement. Now let us come to a real case where we see fraud happen. If any fraud happened, the next step is what is the damage that has happened to the company as a result of fraud. The auditor can estimate the damage on a case-by-case basis and then understand the appropriate use of different accounting methods. What we mean by accounting method, like the calculation of depreciation, for example, or the calculation of allowance for the accounts receivable. Those are methods used by the company when they prepare their financial statements. When something happened to the accounts receivable or the assets, there are some damage here. Then the auditor has to know how the depreciation happened to the asset and the accounts receivable to be able to accurately, as much as we can, calculate the damage that happened. Then the auditor has to understand how the accounting information is used to create the required component of the damage estimate. As I said, the estimate for the depreciation or the allowance or the discount on bonds payable and so on. And then try to come up with accurate, timely, and professional advice that can help the attorney to calculate the damage and report it in the presentation to the court and try to get some kind of compensation from the suspect person. What is the legal framework for damage? To pursue legal damage, so if we have fraudulent case in the company, how the company collect any compensatory damage from the suspect person, the company, who's in this case the injured party, must prove 2 points. Number one, the liability, that the other party was liable for all or part of the damage. So the company has to prove that the employee who committed the fraud is liable to the company. Number two, the company had suffered some kind of loss, either loss in form of assets, or loss in form of reputation, or loss in form of market share. So we have to verify that there is a damage came as a result of this fraud. To prove the damage were sustained or continued, the accused party should be the direct or the proximate cause. So the company has to prove to the court that this suspect has a direct impact on the damage or very close relationship with the suspect. The amount must be calculable. It means the amount of the damage should be approximately calculated, because we cannot claim any damage if we don't know how much is the damage. And then the accused party should have been reasonably able to foresee the damage were likely to occur. So here the fraudster should be able also to tell if there is a damage here that might happen as a result of his fraud. The types of the commercial damage here would be compensatory. Compensatory means we collect it in cash. Or economic loss or restitution. It means if the injured party is an employee and he lost his wage because he has like some kind of fraudulent case happened, and because of this he was dismissed and he was innocent, so he has to calculate the loss of his wage during his dismissal. So this is also commercial damage and he should claim it. Incremental or incident expenses related to the fraudulent case, any loss to profit. So if the company had fraudulent case, the reputation of the company was damaged in the market, so the company lost some kind of revenue from their customer, they can claim this in form of commercial damage or lost value of the market share of the company, or reliance, or punitive, or special. So those are the types of the commercial damages, and I will explain them in the coming videos. I hope this short video is giving you introduction about the different kind of support the forensic accountant or the auditor can get from the different organization, and the different types of engagement that the auditor can provide to his client. Thank you so much. Bye.